And it sounds like what you were describing there is that you have created a process that you can repeat and that you've refined over time to have those conversations with stakeholders. And it almost sounded like the conversation you might have with a doctor where they're trying to diagnose, well, what's the real problem here? You know, it's actually a form of research in and of itself. And it's almost like if we're not having these conversations and we're not putting the effort into structuring them in a way we can have them repeatably and reliably, that we're actually in danger of UX research malpractice. Like we're doing ourselves and our organization a big disservice by not having structure around this conversation.
Oh, what a fantastic way to put that. I'm going to quote you on that. That's awesome. It's like UX research malpractice. Yes, because if we don't know these things coming up front, then here's the bad things that can happen. So we'll do our own risk analysis here. So some of the bad things that can happen is that, one, we'll answer the wrong question. So even, God, who out there has not had this experience? Okay, all you UX researchers out there, you can raise your hands on this one. The stakeholders come in, they say, we need to know this or that. Is it A or B? And so you go and answer A or B for them, and you've done exactly what they asked. And then they said, well, that doesn't help us. It's like, but I did what you asked. It's like, well, so the question is, did we ask the right people? Maybe there was some subtlety in the question that they were asking, and they thought that they were telling you enough about who to test it with, and you thought you knew enough, but you really didn't. We really didn't understand what was the question behind their question. And so they think they know what question they want to answer, but maybe they don't, because that's not their job. It's like a designer job. You get the design out and to solve these problems you're trying to solve. Engineers' problems to do this, business problems to do that. It's like, but maybe they didn't even understand what their own real question was until you brought them the data. But then guess who gets blamed? The researcher gets blamed for doing it wrong and doing it badly. But we did everything right. And so that's one thing that can happen, is that we didn't ask the right question. We didn't ask the right people, that there was really something else that stakeholder was trying to get at. And so what's underneath that? Or really their boss is pressuring them about something, and it's like they're just trying to help their boss like back off, or they're trying to show success in some ways. And so in all of that, if we've taken the time to discover that, then we can do the best we can to help them be successful. That ultimately helps the user be successful. And so that's how this all came about, is trying to solve that and to solve those pain points, both for researchers and our stakeholders. So so putting some discipline behind that let us do that. And I love to say this, it's like disciplined process held lightly. Because we've had people ask us, can't I just fill out a form? Do I have to have a meeting with you? Yes, you do. Because as researchers, we know that part of our magic is that follow-up question. And if you make your stakeholders fill out a form, then they think that they know how to answer it. But maybe they don't. But also it can look like a barrier when you have a form between you and your stakeholders. It can look like that's a firewall. And so I have to answer all of these questions about risks and constraints and previous work done. So we actually hide that complexity from them in the conversation. And so that's part of why we hold that process lightly. And we don't imagine we need to answer all of those questions for us, even in that 20-minute conversation. It's like we're not holding to, we have to fill out this form. We are using this as a framework to help us have the conversation in a semi-repeatable way. Not because we need to fill out our form and get all this answered. No, it's because we need to discover this so that we can keep bad things from happening in the future. I don't always have to know the constraints and the risks. I don't even have to always know the timeline. Typically, I do need to know what business problem you're trying to solve. And who are your stakeholders that you're reporting to, that you're accountable to? Who's your boss? and
yeah, that's such an important one to know, isn't it?
Yeah, who's asking you to do this? So once I know those things, if I don't get anything else and I can get those two things, then we're still mitigating a lot of risk about the research plan going off the rails, or the research report, or how we analyze it, or who we talk to. It just really helps us stay focused and get a whole lot more meaning out of the sessions. Oh my gosh, I love just getting a whole lot of meaning out of sessions. Yeah.